Well, so that was pretty cool, huh? We were able to just have a user upload images that automatically captioned them, tagged them, send them over to SQL Server. But SQL Server is great for a whole bunch of things, but my preference is not to store a bunch of objects out there. What I'd love to have is something like Azure Object Storage. So why don't we take a look at Azure Object Storage? Now remember, object storage is mostly still referred to as blob storage. There may be a difference, but I don't see a difference. Object storage is blob storage. So if you're used to hearing about blob storage, object storage is that. And the Azure storage story really breaks down into a few areas. We've got queues, we've got tables, and we've got blobs or objects. And really here's the big win with object storage. And this is, I think, why we have such great performance, as you mentioned earlier in this session. It can be any type of data. One thing that folks don't always realize about object storage is that it can actually be indexed. For example, if I had PDFs that were uploaded here, I could use an iFilter, similar to what people think that they can do with DocumentDB. I could actually have Word documents or Excel documents out here in object storage, and I can do full text indexing on the content in object storage. A lot of people are sort of blown away by this. And then number 3 is what you mentioned. They're ultra fast performance. Object mutability, that's kind of a fancy word of saying we can kind of change this in place. It's not that big of a deal. We can change it and create new versions of it. And the one that I love that we're going to demonstrate in a little bit is easily integrated into workflows. And here's what I mean by that. We can create a storage container that can listen for stuff to happen. That's an example of a workflow. So you could say, in our scenario, instead of uploading it to SQL Server and us writing code that says create that data, create that byte array, send it to SQL Server, we can just stick it in object storage, and we can have a function. We could have a logic app, we could have a lot of things out there, but in our example, we're going to use an Azure function that's just going to listen. As soon as an object is uploaded, it's going to say, hey, here's a new image. And then it's going to kick off a process. So that's what I love the best about that, is they're so easy to do that. And there's a couple of ways that we can manage, well, there's really 3 that I know of, 4 maybe, that we can manage objects in storage. There's not really a browser or a tool that's available inside the IDE to do that. The Azure portal just introduced the ability to upload objects into object storage, which is something that folks have been waiting for a long time. One sort of full-featured mechanism to manage these objects is through the Storage Explorer, and that's the way that we're going to do it. The Storage Explorer has been created by the folks at Microsoft in order to perform this function, not just to take a look at your containers in storage, but to also manage metadata, to manage keys, to manage permissions, to do a lot of things like that. Storage Explorer is really a full-featured piece of software to do that. I imagine that one day this is going to be in Visual Studio. That's my guess. Pieces of this could sort of be done from Cloud Explorer, but not much.
Probably so. One of the interesting things about the Azure Storage Explorer is that it is cross-plat, as you noted, and it's cross-plat because it's written in Node.js and Electron, which is a commonly used library for building basically client-side Node applications with user interfaces. In fact, your company, Liquid Daffodil, my company, Windellect, we do a lot of app dev for customers, and we're doing quite a lot of this now. And when a customer says to us, can you really build great applications that look great and work great on Linux and Mac and Windows with Node and Electron, we show them the Azure Storage Explorer. And one thing, just for clarity too, Microsoft has had a Windows app out there for years called the Azure Storage Explorer.
Yes, not the same thing.
Not the same thing, because that one is Windows only. That one is still out there, but I think we could say it's deprecated. What this tool, the cross-plat version of Azure Storage Explorer, does is put a very nice graphical user interface over Azure Storage. Not just blob storage, by the way, or object storage, but also table storage.
Queues.
Queues, exactly. I use it all the time in the work that I do because we store a lot of data in Azure tables, also in Azure blob storage. And things like generating shared access signatures to give someone else temporary access to a blob container or to an individual blob or set of blobs. It's just so easy to do in the Azure Storage Explorer. We have found it to be indispensable.
Actually, a lot of great points there. And so I noticed that if you do end up finding the old Storage Explorer for Windows only online, it will say, if you're looking for this cross-platform one, go here. So I think a lot of folks have been looking for that old one, need to get to the new one.
Yeah.
So yeah, great little tool, and it's actually what I use, because again, I'm an actual developer out using this kind of stuff all day long, and this is what I use. This is not just a demo purpose only thing, it's just a great little tool. So Storage Explorer just doing a great job. So I think we should go in and demo that a little bit. We're not going to move the data all the way over into object storage yet. Remember, right now that data is sitting out in SQL Server 2016. We went from Azure SQL, SQL Server 2016. We're eventually going to have it be in object storage. But let's go out and just kind of see what this looks like, and then look at it in Storage Explorer. And really what I want to do is, for those of you that are following along in these sessions, you'll realize that pretty soon we're going to have one of these containers listening for uploads. I want to point those out so that kind of in context we can see what's happening. So we're going to point out which storage object is going to be a listener, which one's going to be a target, and you'll understand what I mean when we look through this. And then we're going to prepare to have two things happen: analyze and tag these images via the web application, send them to storage, and we're going to send those uploads in the next session up to Azure Function. So let's go ahead and flip over and open up the Storage Explorer.